are talking about don't vote, you're not going to get anything for it. Well, guess what? Today, Donald Trump, the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon con man in chief, his Department of Justice announced that they were dismissing several settlements, consent decrees with police departments who did harm to black people. A stunning decision, but it was one that we told you was going to happen. It was one that Project 2025 called to happen. How many times have we told you? Donald Trump ran and said he wanted to give police 100% immunity. But what he did today is no different than what he did 4 years ago. Remember, first time he was there, what did he do? His Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, his second Attorney General, Bill Barr, said they were pulling back on consent decrees because they were hurting the morale of cops. And here we sit, 4 days from the 5th anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. Donald Trump has said consent decrees with the city of Minneapolis and the police department, gone. Louisville, Breonna Taylor, gunned down by cops, gone. In several other cities. This is what this man thinks. He does not support victims. He does not support black people. He supports rogue, thug, killer cops. Let's talk about this. We got a full panel to break it all down. Reddit Hudson is a co-founder of the National Coalition of Law Enforcement for Justice, Reform, and Accountability. Tamika Mallory, co-founder of Until Freedom. Adante Pointer, civil rights attorney, and also Chief Mitchell Davis, second national vice president for the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. Glad to have all of you here. Plus, I have my panel coming on after this as well. Reddit, I'm going to start with you. This man does not care about police accountability. He wants cops who beat people, who kill people. He wants to make it. He pardoned, convicted in Washington, D.C. for causing the death after chasing a black man. He pardoned them. This is who this man is. He does not care about citizens. He cares about making cops feel good. And he said in the campaign, he wants to give them 100% immunity. That's what this is.
Well, he's gone further than that. If you look at his last executive order, I got it right here. Strengthening and unleashing America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect the innocent. He is also planning to use his Department of Justice to defend officers in cases of abused police authority. And he's advertised that as really, I think, incentive for them to disregard any of the progress that's been made in the last 10 or so years relative to police accountability. He is fulfilling his promise to his base to continue walking this country backwards in time to a place where, police immunity was a given. And I think we really need to be extremely vigilant, especially those of us who are anywhere in or around law enforcement, relative to ensuring the rights of our people being protected in the current environment that exists right now, because it's a lawless environment, as you pointed out in your opening. Here's a man who's a convicted felon. Talk about cracking down on crime. Does that include rape and fraud, the things that he's been convicted of? We got some work to do.
Adante, I have said this since January 20th, really since November 5th, that if you are a civil rights attorney, you have looked to the Department of Justice, even under Republican presidents, to do their job. This civil rights division, you might as well lose their phone number, because if there's a case where a cop has beat somebody, has injured somebody, maimed someone, or killed them, this DOJ, they're not even going to answer your phone.
They're not going to answer your phone. They're not going to respond to your email. But what they may do is celebrate whatever happened to you in their boardrooms and in their offices if you're a victim of police abuse. Because remember, when he was campaigning for this presidency, he said he wanted the days to go back to where an officer If he was dealing with somebody, taking them into custody and putting them in a patrol car, it was okay if you slapped them up against the head or bumped them up against the patrol car. He felt that there are too many restraints on law enforcement to behave decently and in respect to the Constitution, in particular, as we know, as it relates to our community. So he is a threat in chief, if you will, to the Constitution and to our own personal rights and dignity. And we have to be very vigilant and be prepared to fight back, because the DOJ is not coming to anyone's rescue at this point.
Tamika, you and others with Until Freedom, local activists, other national groups, spent a lot of time in Louisville, Kentucky, fighting for the family of Breonna Taylor, what happened to her. There were a settlement with the city that also was a part of that, where changes made to their local laws. And we saw the DOJ pursue cases against officers involved. It has to be disheartening to look at all of that work, whether it's Minneapolis, whether it's Louisville, and several other cities, and to watch this thug just wipe that away and act like federal judges did not approve these consent decrees. Act like there were no patterns and practices investigation that uncovered massive amount of abuse by cops. Tamika, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
There we go.
Saying,
there we go.
I'm headed to the airport, and but I wanted to be on with you, Roland, and you said it properly, that it is very disheartening, extremely painful, and frustrating. And today, my heart hurts for Breonna Taylor's family, for George Floyd's family, and for countless families who have lost their children, and their children have become martyrs, that we have worked so hard to use their stories as a way to get these consent decrees in the first place. And I think we have to center their voices in the midst of this as we talk about what today this letdown is. Now, you said at the beginning, Roland, when you first started, that we already knew what would happen because we watched the transition from President Obama to Donald Trump in his first presidency, and they did the same thing. William Barr, his attorney general at that time. And so we already expected this, but we always want to posture ourselves as people who know that it is wrong and that we feel it, that we know that what is happening in this moment is a sign of oppression and certainly an authoritarian government that is dangerous, and that if they could do this one thing, God only knows what will happen over the course of the next 3.5 years. And so, yes, disheartening. Now, I want to say this in case I get cut off, because I want people to know what is it that we do going forward. Number one, the consent decrees were not signed by the cities with ease. They did not get up and sign the consent decrees and say, yeah, absolutely. You know, we're excited about having federal oversight on our police department and what's happening in our city. In fact, the people of Louisville and also people in Minneapolis fought like hell to ensure that those agreements were signed and that the federal oversight would be something that they would also play a part in. And I can tell you that the folks in Louisville, Kentucky had to fight down to the last minute to ensure that their mayor agreed to what was in the consent decree. And that means that we have to ensure that the fight goes back to the local governments, to the local police departments, and on the ground level in local cities, that we know what's in the consent decree. We have the documents. We have to make sure that our activists, our organizers, our local elected officials, our local pastors and community leaders and communities are fighting to say that we still expect that you as a leader in this city, follow what we have all found to be extreme issues within the department where the civil rights and human rights of our citizens, and particularly Black citizens, are being violated. And if you are a mayor or you are an elected official who stands with our communities, you will still look at these documents and ensure that we follow some of the recommendations that is included. If that does not happen, we have to make sure that we either primary or ensure that we get rid of elected officials who are in position in these cities who do not follow the will of the people. That has got to be the next course of action. And in fact, as you've been saying, Roland, and we've been talking about since Donald Trump became president, the fight is local. We did not, while we may have lost a major battle on the federal level, we can still force this work to happen on the local level and in local communities.
Chief Davis, they are closing civil rights investigations in Memphis, Phoenix, Oklahoma City, Trenton, New Jersey, Mount Vernon, New York, also against Louisiana State Police. Louisiana State Police has been rife with corruption. The case of the black man there who they said died in a car accident until the body cam video was released showed he was brutally beaten by cops to death.
Ronald Green.
Ronald Green. We've had his mother on the show numerous times. And look, we know not all cops do this, but the reality is we know that on the state level, Tamika made that point, that you've had DAs and some state attorneys general who are afraid to prosecute cops because they work closely with them. So the DOJ in many ways was a backstop if they chose not to pursue. That happened in Kentucky with that coward Daniel Cameron when he was attorney general. But what this says here, Donald Trump is saying to the police, hey, don't worry about it. You can beat people. You can be racist. You can kill people. And if it goes to the federal level, I got your back. And I'm telling you right now, there's a we've been covering this case in Los Angeles where a former deputy sheriff brutally beat a black woman who was videotaping an encounter at a supermarket. He was convicted by the jury. Trump's U.S. attorney comes in and wants to offer a post-trial, a post-verdict deal with him that would set him free. That's what we're dealing with. And so what is Noble's perspective on what we are now seeing with this Trump administration and Department of Justice?
You love your craft. The day-to-day tasks of running a home service business? Not so much. With House Call.
Well, Brother Martin, you said it, and well as Ms. Tamika as well, hit on several of those points that we understand that the local level is where we have to put our efforts now. We understand that what's going on in D.C., what's going on in the White House, it is what it is at this point in time. And as you said at the beginning, we knew what was going to happen. And right now, we have to make sure that the people that are at the local levels, whether that the elected officials, the appointed officials, the people that live in these communities, have to hold everyone accountable for what's going on. I was actually involved with an organization with the company that was contracted to come in Louisiana and investigate the state police after Mr. Green's tragic murder. So I was involved in those things. And what we understand, and from a Noble perspective, we understand that our profession, law enforcement, we literally hold the power of life and death in our hands when we go to work every day. We can take people's freedom from them every day. And with that responsibility, with that comes a lot of responsibility. And if we can't be held accountable for having such great power and such great discretion, there's something wrong. And to try to have unchecked power, that is just a disaster. And that's what's been happening historically. That's what's been going on in these communities. And we have to make sure that we have proper leadership, elected, local elected leadership. And that elected leadership puts people in place, leadership within police departments. Because see, having consent decrees, that's the roadmap. And Ms. Tamika said it. Even though the federal government may have backed out on enforcing those, It's out there. The roadmap is out there. The instructions are out there, and the expectations are out there. So we can still hold our organizations, our police departments, our departments, and our communities accountable for what's already been laid out. It doesn't require federal oversight. That was, and we heard that people didn't. They went unwillingly, but we can still proceed with those marching orders.
Dante, consent decrees are not perfect, but here's what we do understand. What we understand is that when the DOJ comes in and they do a patterns and practice investigation, they are studying and they're talking to people. They're investigating. We're talking about reports have shown massive racism, cops using the N-word, all sorts of things. Trump is saying, we don't give a damn about none of that. Man, y'all gonna do what y'all do.
He's definitely saying that. And we, as the local council, civil rights attorneys, activists, community members, community leaders, and members of law enforcement, we still have a lane. I primarily practice in federal court, holding police officers accountable for misconduct. And I join with community leaders and activists and everyday folk to bring these lawsuits and apply pressure. And you can make a city or a police department kneel to the power of the people and enter into agreements where there is reform. And you do not necessarily need the Federal Department of Justice to do that. To the extent the DOJ has already engaged in pattern and practice investigations, which was mentioned by the chief there, those are the breadcrumbs. Those are the roadmaps that we all can use to drive police departments that are in need of reform, desperate in need of reform, to reform. So we don't have to rely only upon the DOJ. We also have other tools at our disposal to use. It necessarily is going to mean we're going to have to come together to do it, but it can be done, and it's been done across this country in different cities in America.
Reddit, we talked about again. We've talked about again in terms of what our response is on the local. What do you say right now to the people? Not just the black people who voted for Trump. Because see, here's the deal. These MAGA Negroes, oh, they're not gonna say nothing. Sharice Lane, Florida A&M grad, she ain't saying nothing. Pastor Darrell Scott in Cleveland, he ain't gonna say a damn thing. Of course, Brandon Tatum, the former cop, we know, oh, he loves all of this. All them black MAGA folk ain't saying nothing. Joseph Pinion ain't saying nothing. But the people who I want you to speak to are these loudmouth ass black people who was on YouTube and all on social media telling black folk voting don't matter. You don't get anything for your vote. Wasting your time voting for Vice President Kamala Harris. Telling people she's worse than Donald Trump. These are the same folk who love the FBA folk, all of them. This man has said, I don't give a damn if cops kill black people. They're not going to face any penalty from me.
We had a number of them right here in St. Louis as well. And I'll be candid with you, man. I thought as intelligent as some of those people were, that they had to be ops. They had to be bought off. They had to be strategically placed. They couldn't possibly believe some of the things that they were saying. First, I would echo what I've heard from the attorneys and the brother from Noble, that now is the time to be proactive and aggressive in executing some of the strategies that have been laid out here right now, while there's still some semblance of a framework in which to execute those. This is a lawless land right now, man. You have a president who is ignoring the Constitution and the courts. He is arresting people without charges, without proof, and flying their asses out of the country. And the courts tell them to stop. And he said, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. What you gonna do about it? So while that environment is present, we have to have a level of urgency. To those people, though, that you're describing, man, I don't know what their love for community and love for our people really is. But I would urge you, if you have any level of integrity, get your ass right back in front of a camera and speak to the fact that what this man is doing is directly injuring and damaging our communities in the present and his policies that he's trying to shape and codify right now will damage the futures of our children and grandchildren going forward in the worst possible ways, reflecting the time before civil rights, when we were subject to any abuse that was available to anybody in power.
Chief, the thing that I think is important here, this is why I wanted Noble on here, because I need people to understand that Black law enforcement folk, they know the real deal. They see what's happening. In fact, and we saw what happened in Memphis. We know it's some Black cops who act like a lot of white cops. So for them, it's about blue. It's about the badge and the gun and having the power. But at the end of the day, I don't care who you are, there has to be accountability. And unfortunately, there are too many folks, too many police departments, chiefs, city council members, DAs, state attorneys generals who make excuses for the conduct of cops. It says to protect and serve. That is the people, not themselves.
Absolutely, Brother Martin. We have to make sure that we're doing right by all communities. Equitable policing is what has to happen. Noble's motto is justice by action, and we call ourselves the conscience of law enforcement, and we're responsible for holding people accountable for not doing their jobs. You know, you talk about state's attorneys, district attorney. We had a district attorney here, a state's attorney here in Cook County, Kim Fox. There was a group of white chiefs that came together to have a vote of no confidence because she was fighting for equitable policing and holding police officers accountable. That culture is so entrenched in our society that any disruption to that apple cart, anybody trying to take away that power that institution has, is going to be met with force. Personally, we at Noble, we're faced with that because we stand up for what's right for all communities. You know, when you do what's right for everybody, you do what's right for everybody. That's how it ends up working out. But that's equitable. That's not privilege or anything else. And we have to fight to gain the ground that we're losing right now. We're losing it at a fast pace, but we cannot give up the fight. We have to make sure that we are pushing forward, that we're using the forces that we have at a local level and putting people in place who are willing to fight, because everybody that's up front ain't willing to fight. We got to have people who are unapologetic about doing what's right and doing it for the right reasons. And when we do that, as far as Noble is concerned, we are justice by action, and we are the conscience of law enforcement, and we do that unapologetically.
Lots of work to be done, and I'll say this here: next year are congressional races. Every single person running, Democrat or Republican, should be asked about this. And if there is a mobilizing effort, it needs to be happening now. And let me also say this here to all of the Black folks, but especially the white folks and the Latinos and the Asian Americans and Native Americans, the folks who are straight, gay, who are transgender, non-binary, the folk who are Baptist, Catholic, atheist, all of y'all.
The fastest growing scam of 2025 is spreading like wildfire and wiping out bank accounts in seconds.
Who 5 years ago were involved in massive protest when that video, when we saw the murder of George Floyd. Where you at? 5 years later, where you're at, because we see what is going on, and we see the right has been pissed off since George Floyd's death, because massive social change was coming to this country. They are pissed off about the billions that are being allocated. They're pissed off about DEI, all those things coming in the wake of George Floyd's death. They're pissed about the books. And now you have what Donald Trump is doing. They want to erase everything that happened after May 25th, 2020. And we need folk using their power at the ballot box, city, county, state, and federal. It's time to be all in. I know Tamika had to catch her flight. Let me thank all three of you, Chief Davis, Adante, Reddit, been on today's show. We're going to keep this thing focused. While everybody else talking about that bullshit book on Biden, Original Sin, whatever, we're talking about what's happening today that's impacting our communities.
Hello, I'm Isaac